is Madalene Arias, Associate Editor for Canadian Security and SP&T News. It's my pleasure to introduce the panelists for our opening session. Elizabeth Parks, who is President and CMO at Parks Associates. Floria Chiu, Enterprise Account Executive at Allied Universal Canada. Jenn Hilber, Business Architect at Convergint and Chair of Convergint Women Connect Affinity Group. Elaine, Palome, HR Director at Access Communications, and Erin Mann, City Manager of Toronto at Latch. Thank you so much for being here today. Great. Now, before we dive into what the security industry can do to become more inclusive and welcoming of women, we'd love to hear from each of you what attracted you to your respective industries and what has made you want to stay. Elizabeth, if you could start us off, please.
Sure. Thank you so much for the invitation to join today. My name is Elizabeth Parks, and I'm the President and Chief Marketing Officer of Parks Associates. We are a 36-year-old business, and I started this, I'm working up to year 25. My mom is the founder of Parks Associates. We are a market research and consulting company that studies the adoption of all connected technologies, and we have a sweet spot in the security space. So love this topic, love women in technology. I love men in technology also, but certainly very important to highlight this initiative. So thanks for hosting this webinar.
Great, thank you so much. And Floria, if you could answer this question for us as well.
Hi, everyone. So for me, I joined the industry straight out of university simply because I didn't want to spend any more time in university. I was supposed to go to law school after that. And what really made me stay was the opportunity to bring a business perspective to the industry. I found that as I moved up in the industry and gained experience, it was really the business side of things that made me want to stay and continue working.
Thank you. Jenn, if you could please continue.
Sure. My name is Jenn Hilber. I work for Convergint Technologies as a business architect. And what brought me to the industry was after I had my first child, I realized that the connection to the commute, the flexibility that I had within the organization was really important to me. So I just happened to move into the family business, which happened to be security. What makes me stay in security is as I moved into Convergint and started working for a company that has values and beliefs that really align with our family values and beliefs, it just made it that much more important to stay within and be able to work with other women in Convergint and support them in the same way that I was supported through Convergint.
Thank you. And Elaine, if you could please go ahead.
Sure. Hi, I'm Elaine Palome, and I am the head of HR here for Access Communications in the Americas. My team and I take care of all Axians from Canada to Argentina and every country in between. I got into this industry sort of in a very traditional way. I happened to answer an ad or a job posting that really spoke to me. And what has kept me here has been the opportunity to work with a great management team, my boss, the culture of the company, and the great team that I've built. As an add-on, I've had the extreme pleasure of serving on the steering committee for the Women in Security Forum through the Security Industry Association, and have helped build the membership of that organization from 0 to over 800 people in the past 4 years. And I'm thrilled to be part of that effort and super happy to be here with all my great colleagues in the same space.
Thank you, Elaine. Erin, if you could please tell us what has kept you in your industry.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Mann, and I'm the city manager for Toronto for Latch. I'm really excited to be joining all of the great women on this panel today. And I actually entered the security industry before I realized I did. I technically started right out of university with a marketing role at a company called Elaine in Indiana. But prior to that, I was a resident assistant and a housing assistant at my university, where I managed like 300 mechanical keys and access control systems for students on campus. So it was very serendipitous. When I accepted my first role with Elaine, I didn't really have my sights set on the security industry specifically. But what has kept me here is I've had one of the most engaging, impactful, and fulfilling careers of someone my age. And it's been because I've been able to get involved with so many initiatives that mean a lot to me, from empowerment to networking to working with young professionals, and really trying to change the perception of the security industry to make sure people understand it's a much more dynamic and engaging place than I think a lot of people believe it is right now. So I think this conversation is going to be really exciting for all of us.
Thank you so much. So what I wanted to ask next is, what can the industry do to attract and recruit more young women into the profession? Elaine, I'll throw this question at you first.
Yeah, thanks. It's a really broad-based question. And as I was sitting last night kind of pondering this, I could come up with many, many different things, but a couple of things I want to focus on are kind of on the more tactical side. So one of the things that we've been trying to do here at Axis is to make sure that our postings are what we call gender neutral. And that's everything from changing words like chairperson, or words to chairperson instead of chairman, to also just using what we call family-friendly perks in our ads. I was interested to find that there's an editor function in Word that can actually pick up biased words and suggest alternatives. So if you write a job posting and run it through this editor in Word, it will show you those gender biased terms. 29 job postings that are gender neutral have 29% more applications, which in a candidate-driven market such as what we're in now is huge. The other one point that I wanted to leave you with as well is that we should be posting positions that have a minimum number of requirements, just the must-haves and not all of the have-to-haves. They tend to scare women away when you have too many requirements in the posting. Research has shown that men will apply for a job if they feel that they're 60% qualified for the role, whereas for women, they have to feel that they are 90% qualified. So the more have-to-haves you have in there, the more women you're going to scare away. So that's my input to the question.
Thank you. Erin, if you could go ahead, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everything Elaine said is really, I think, really impactful, specifically for the recruiting process and getting those candidates interested in the roles that the industry has to offer. I think that there's a lot of efforts right now, specifically for targeting individuals who haven't been exposed to the industry before. And so there's a lot of initiatives through foundations like the Foundation for Advancing Security Talent that is working with vocational schools and high schools and working with robotics clubs to start telling people about the opportunities in the industry earlier than they would traditionally have that exposure, maybe during a career fair in college or something like that. I think one of the other things that's really impactful for bringing people into the industry and then retaining that talent is making sure that we tell candidates and prospective individuals that there's a lot of ways that people can get involved with their passions outside of just their role and responsibility within the organizations that they might be hired by. And the security industry is one of the most vast industries that has organizations of all sizes, all shapes. You have major corporations to family-owned businesses. So what a candidate is looking for from a value or from a job perspective can really be found in a variety of different organizations based on what they're looking for. And if we start telling people that there are scholarship opportunities and there are mentorship opportunities and there are ways to, dig into the human side of hiring versus the technical side of hiring, or whatever those passions might be, we start to spur up interest in places that we haven't traditionally found talent before. And so I think by really galvanizing how diverse the industry can be for just what you want to get out of it is a great way to bring people that we haven't traditionally seen in this space into the industry and hopefully get them involved in ways that are really impactful for them and really fulfilling. So we continually retain that talent, and it starts a community of them telling people that they're interested in, hey, this is an industry that you should really look at. It has really fulfilling careers, and it's a place you can really grow your career.
Thank you so much, Erin. And Jenn, if you could tell us what you think the industry could do to recruit more young women.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with Elaine and with Erin. One of the things that Convergint has done is created not only the women's group for Convergint Women Connect, but we've done that across a diversity of different affinity groups. So encouraging people to join within the industry, but also then using that knowledge and talking with our customers and our partners and encouraging them to do the same. Just having that conversation alone has also encouraged others to join Convergint and participate because they're so excited to hear what we're doing. We have, I was one of the founding members of Convergint Women Connect. It's been a lot of fun actually to pull it together. It makes my job more fulfilling because in addition to doing my day-to-day job and what I'm paid to do, I'm doing something that's giving back to the community. It's giving back to our local colleagues. And it's broadened my horizons globally. I've been able to work with our global affiliates and connect to those colleagues specifically through Convergint Women Connect. So it's something that I think all of our partners should be doing.
Thank you. And Floria, if you could please tell us what we could do to recruit more women into the industry.
Well, I look around at this panel of very talented female industry colleagues, and I think one of the most impactful things we can do as individuals is become spokespersons for the industry, just to highlight all of the different career paths that do exist. When I entered the industry, I did not think that, 20-something years later, I would still want to stay here and continue to find different areas where I can contribute. So for me, I think that in order to attract more females, I think it is our responsibility to become spokespersons and really push that idea. I'm aligned with what everyone else has said, especially Erin, where we start at the school level. I have a child who is in high school, and career day is something that they experience in high school year over year. It really is just an opportunity for us to go to those career days and present the industry and showcase all of the really cool things that we do as a part of contributing and as a part of our careers.
Thank you. And Elizabeth.
Well, it might seem real obvious, but I would say hire and promote, right? If you're in a position, hire women and promote them. Have men hire women and promote them. So the men leaders, which there are so many in the security business and all technology, really do need to hire and promote women. That is actually the only way that women will get to the top of any business, is if they are hired and promoted. And so I think that's the most important thing that can be done. And then extending that beyond just women. I love seeing panels that emphasize women in technology, but the women are sitting beside the men at the table. And so men being very involved in the success of women and also recognizing the value that women bring is really critical to changing the ways of the world that have been in the past. And so with my mom, especially with starting her own business and hiring me and promoting me through many decades now, I literally have got to watch and experience what it is to get those opportunities, to have people take a chance on you, and then to hear really the good work you're doing. And it's not because you're a woman, It's because you're doing good work, and that's standing out on its own. And so bringing the men to the table also has to be like a critical point for all of us. It's not just about the women. And in fact, it might even more be about the men. And then teaching the young women of the world what's appropriate, what you don't stand for, and what those boundaries are in a work environment, I think is, for me personally, what I can do, because I have so many different interactions, with our staff and with young women and with lots of men, to understand, how to help educate and train people really in the business world.
Thank you so much. Now, the next question I wanted to ask was, in your opinion, what is security doing well in terms of representing the interests of women? And where would you say there are still areas for improvement? And Jenn, if you could please kick this one off.
Sure. I think industry initiatives like the Women in Security Forum that are bringing panel discussions like this one that we're having today, they are probably some of the most impactful. The recognition for females across the industry, just raising that awareness helps others see what's going on, helps others, participate and support the female colleagues. I love the Rise young professional community. That's also pulling together now at these lower levels, right? At these younger levels, these kids coming out of college that maybe think they want this fancy job in a fancy industry. And to be honest with you, in security, we're all careers are supported here. My background is not industry specific, it's finance, right? Erin was mentioning, I think, marketing, and we're not out there in the field turning screws and things like that. This is a technology industry. So raising that awareness, making it known that it's not just a male-dominated industry. This is a little bit about everything that we do, right? We're HR, we're in all different industries, or all different professions coming into the industry.
Thank you, Jenn. And Elaine, if you could continue.
I'm happy to. So I agree with some of the things that Jenn has mentioned. I think I've been most heavily involved with the Women's Security Forum, but also ASIS and RISE have also been really active in the last couple of years to sort of get the word out about our profession and to offer programs and initiatives that help women develop. So the scholarship opportunities, for example, from ASIS and from the Women's Security Forum have been awesome. Last year, the Women's Security Forum granted $80,000 worth of scholarships, which I think makes a huge difference in the industry. And ASIS isn't too far behind there. We also have offered networking events and learning and development activities. RISE has a wonderful mentorship program that I'm really looking forward to getting involved in. I think what we need is for everyone to be involved in these programs. If you are a woman in this industry, you ought to be giving of your time in some fashion, whether it's fundraising for the scholarships or it's offering to be a mentor or it's participating in a panel. I think we owe that to our fellow colleagues in the industry, fellow female colleagues in the industry, to really give back. This industry has been wonderful for me. I've only been in it for 6 years, but I really have found my home and I really enjoy it. And part of the reason why I'm so active is because I feel that there's a need to give back.
Thank you so much, Elaine. And Elizabeth, if you could please tell us where there are areas for improvement and what we're doing well.
Well, I mean, I think in the security industry, there's so many great groups, as noted. SAA is doing really good things. The mentorships there are so important. The education, I think, is so important. I like to be involved in any women in anything, really. Actually, any leadership group, I think all women should be in, whether it's women focused or not. So I think the women focused is so important, but also, you know, any leadership group, any communications group, anything that you can do to better yourself and to help others with their own personal development is, you know, is going to help them be a better leader. And if they're a woman, they'll be a better a woman leader. So I think I'm all about, you know, learning more, always get better, know you can get better, and give feedback to women. So in my role, I love to do my best to give constructive feedback so that people, you know, can be the best that they can be, really.
Thank you so much. And Erin, please, if you could.
Sure. I do agree that a lot of the programs and partnerships and initiatives that are happening in the industry are some of the best and most impactful experiences for women. So like they've been mentioned, there's scholarship opportunities that give the advancement of any type of career or higher education or new certification or going to a conference that you want to, so you can build your network. I mean, that's a tremendous way to make sure people feel like they have a place to grow in the industry, which is huge for keeping people in the industry. There's mentorship opportunities where younger professionals can learn from more tenured individuals who have maybe been people who have had to be trailblazers or broken those glass ceilings, who are willing to be in a position of power where they can extend their hand back and help someone else reach that summit as well. And I think that what the security industry has done really well, especially in the last couple of years that I've been involved, is we've changed the narrative around that there can only be one woman at the table. And rather it's the first woman who gets there, scoots her chair over, and she makes room for another person. And I think that's I think what the security industry is doing the best right now, both from male and female leaders, from young professionals who feel empowered, from individuals who don't necessarily see barriers that exist. They're willing to remember all of the moments someone was in their corner, and they find those individuals and they believe in those individuals, and then they step into those positions of support. And just being able to tell someone, I see talent in you, I think this would be a great program or an opportunity for you to get involved in, is a huge way to empower women in the industry, but also empower young men in the industry who want to be part of this equalizer and this change that we're starting to see. And so a lot of these associations and programs that are going to be talked about in the next panel really are just platforms for individuals to take advantage of. So if you want to get into thought leadership, find someone who knows a little bit about producing content and say, where can I go to start this journey for myself? I want to find my voice. I want to put it out there, and find those people who are willing to be in your corner and cheer you on. And then remember those people when you're in a position to do that for someone else.
Hey, Erin, I wanted to just jump in if this is okay, because you mentioned, you know, this position of power. And I think that's a really interesting point. Somebody a man brought this up to me, a man who told me to trust him like a lot, and that wasn't really the way to go. But he mentioned the position of power, and it's interesting because I don't think women think of it that way. I didn't. I still don't think of my position as power. I think of my position as being able to help other people, to be able to produce a good research product, you know, what we do here at Parks Associates. And so women and men view things very differently in terms of what that leadership position is. And it took me a long time to understand that that was what men see in leadership as power. And I don't know if that's the way women view it. It's certainly not the way I view it. And I never have. And so that's a foreign characteristic of leadership that I think is a big, you know, disconnect between men and women. And the sooner you understand that, understand maybe where some men come from in that view of power and leadership, it's going to serve you well moving forward, as it has for me once I was able to recognize that in different ways.
I think that goes back to something Elaine said in her opening statements about how, I don't remember the exact stats, but men who feel 60% ready to take on a job description that they can fill are willing to apply, where women wait for 90%. And I think that, you know, taking that a step back and looking at the shift, it's, you know, if we hit certain marks and we're applying to a new position, women should feel empowered to apply for that new position, knowing that that next advancement is going to be something that they learn into and they grow within. Whereas men are just willing to they have this inherent confidence that says, okay, I've hit the bar here, I'm willing to apply. And it's not really a barrier to entry for men. Whereas I think it goes back to what you were just saying, Elizabeth, about this perception of power. And what you said is your ability to deliver on all of the things that you think your role should be, to me, is powerful. And the influence that you have on other people, just being that person that people look up to, is so powerful. So if we can change the narrative about what certain positions mean and what responsibility we have when we're in certain positions, and the impact that we can have on 500 people if we're part of an association, or one person who's made a really big impact on us in our organization, those impacts are equal as long as you're willing to extend that to someone else. And so I think that if we can really empower women to feel that confidence that I think men inherently have, just because of the way that the world has worked, especially now with young professionals feeling like it's really our time to enter the workforce, I think it can be really amazing to see the transition and the evolution the industry is going to take.
Thank you so much, Erin. Different perceptions of power. That's interesting. Floria, if you could please tell us, are there any specific initiatives that you would say are working well in terms of recruiting and retaining young women or female talent?
I think that, the promotions that are done through industry associations and publicly acknowledging females and what they achieve in the industry are very positive. Those are the initiatives that do work. I think that the forums, especially these types of panels where, right now we are addressing 112 people who are participants listening in, those are all great initiatives that promote and push conversation and dialogue. And those, in my opinion, work very well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And in terms of career advancement and retention, how can we keep successful women in the profession? Is there room for advancement and sufficient incentive to stay? Erin, why don't I throw this one at you?
Yeah, I think there's, honestly, in my opinion, no better time to be a female in the industry. I think that there has been a lot of intentionality around opening opportunities specifically to women or other individuals who have different identities. And I think that's a really powerful thing. What I'd like to see us go a step further is the conversation not to be necessarily around what those identities are, because people equate those sometimes to quotas or trying to hit an equal number of men or women. And I think that can be really harmful to the conversation around what we're actually bringing to the industry. I think what's more important is to change the conversation to, these are opportunities that we want to encourage everyone to participate in. And just because I am a young woman in the industry who gets to take advantage of the opportunity or wins a scholarship, it doesn't mean that I'm only deserving because I'm a female in the industry. I am deserving and my identity is female. And those two things are very powerful individually, but extra powerfully combined. So if we can put people in positions where we strike down some of the barriers that are perceived to be there, we put really amazing individuals who are in leadership positions on places that are accessible to individuals who are growing in their careers, where we help fund scholarship programs and we help fund thought leadership and we get people involved in mentorship programs and we have people participate in conversations like this, I think that the impact can go significantly farther than it is right now, while we're just focusing a little bit on strategically placing people of certain identities and opportunities, rather than making sure that these opportunities, people of all identities feel really empowered to take. And the identity portion is not as important as making sure people understand that they've deserved these advancements, they've deserved the scholarship, they deserve these opportunities to put themselves out there because of the work that they do and the value that they bring to the organization and the industry. And so I think if we can slightly change the conversation around what these opportunities are, we'll have a lot of success in bringing more individuals into the industry. And then it isn't necessarily a conversation about what identities are missing. It's a conversation about where all of these valuable individuals are coming from. How do we get more of them and how do we keep them? Because at the end of the day, if we don't have everyone represented as a security industry, how are we supposed to be able to keep people safe? Because we don't understand what safe means to everyone.
Thank you so much, Erin. And Jenn, if you could please give us your piece on this question.
Yeah, I think it's important too that we focus in terms of keeping women in the industry and in our companies. We look at things like equity and inclusion. One of the things that is always top of mind from an equity perspective, we always talk about equal pay, equal compensation, but it's really important to also look at equal opportunity. Are we giving those women the same educational opportunities? Are we giving them the same projects? Are they able to travel? Are they being told that travel might not be for them? Or are we just including them and bringing them into the conversation, letting them decide or not decide for themselves, right? Am I being asked to sit at the table or included in those decisions and those discussions? And if not, why not, right? That's a really key part of what we're doing. So that talks to the inclusion and the equity at the same time. Not having the same opportunities as our fellow colleagues really puts the females at a disadvantage, right? So I think it's really important to talk about the other side of equitable.
Okay. And would you say if whether there is enough room for advancement or sufficient incentive to stay?
I think there can be, right? So if the opportunities don't exist today in your company, is there the opportunity to make them available? Can you create a job for someone that has the ability to do and be in the next level? If they've gotten those educational opportunities, are we making it available to them and giving them the opportunity to learn from their peers? They don't need to come in at the same exact level if they have an opportunity to learn. And then, what are the plans for advancement in the future? Are we giving them those opportunities? And the incentive to stay in those opportunities is going to come if you're opening the opportunities up, right? Sometimes a position is not available, but we can make that position available, especially if we're in that role. Human resources opens up new titles and new opportunities all the time. It's about asking and making sure that they're available for the right person.
Thank you so much. Elaine, could you tell us what you think, please?
Yes, I'm really interested in this particular conversation. I agree in many respects with some of the things Erin had to say around just making opportunities available, and then women as well as other identities will have more of an opportunity to apply. But I think you actually need to take it a step further, at least now at this point in time, where we still are in an industry that's primarily dominated by males over 40. So one of the things that we actively do here at Axis, and I wish we didn't have to, but we do, is that we require every management role to have at least one woman finalist, whether that's somebody internally or externally, just to guarantee that at least it was a competitive process. And we're always going to hire the best person for the job. We're not going to hire the best female for the job. It's always going to be the best individual. But we want to encourage women internally and externally to apply. We want to take their applications seriously. I'm hoping in years to come we don't have to do things like that, but for now that seems to be a path that we've chosen to at least assure that women are getting in the game. In terms of keeping people, we're going through a period right now where we are reevaluating our benefits package. And some of the really cool things I'm seeing out there are things like more generous parental leave and providing adoption assistance and on-site childcare opportunities, part-time jobs or job sharing. Those are really interesting ways that we could attract and keep more women of childbearing age. And I think that if companies can be flexible, and I know they can, that will result in having a more diverse workforce and certainly more diversity at the top. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. And Elizabeth, please.
Let's see, I think women like to work for women, right? So the more women who are in those hiring positions, and I don't know if y'all read, there's some crazy things that men do in hiring. So I really think having women in the room, just in the hiring process is really important. Overall, the keeping them in the workforce, I think the flexible work environment. I mean, if you're talking younger women, right, they're going to grow up and they're going to maybe get married and maybe have children, right? Maybe they don't get married and maybe they still have kids, whatever. Children may be in their life. Same with men, but women really do play a different role in that, having the children part. And so having an understanding of what that means. And I think that women who are mothers are really special people, and they can do very special things in a job environment that is very different than what men can bring to the table. So that flexibility there, of course, the pay, of course, the leave, of course, the support and understanding. And I do believe that that can best come from women who are hiring and women bosses. So again, promoting and hiring women and getting them at the top is going to also have that trickle effect down on all those younger women and what their careers look like across 10, 20 years, just as mine was. I wouldn't be where I am now without my mom doing all sorts of things. I have 3 young children, and I get to play that role of mom just as much as I get to play the role at work as well.
If you don't mind, I just want to step in for a quick second. I do feel strongly that women are the best advocates for other women in general, but I have to say the best boss that I've ever had, the one who has been the most inspiring and the most understanding, and the one who has really paved the way for me to be successful was a guy. So I want to make sure that we're not slamming all of the men, on
Oh no, absolutely.
Well.
I love men and I love working with men. But in my experience, I've worked for 25 years for my mom, right? That's my experience. So I've also worked with a lot of men as well. And there's a lot of great men out there, but I think they don't necessarily understand sometimes what a woman's going through when they're in a career growth and having children as well.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Floria, please tell me what you think the industry can do to retain successful professionals.
It's such an interesting conversation. I think one of the key things about being a woman in this industry is I think it takes a certain amount of guts and intestinal fortitude to stay and to continue to carve a place in the industry. So I think to retain success, qualified and successful women, give them roles where they can be change agents for you, because they're going to forge ahead and make it happen. And I think when there is a rewarding project or a rewarding outcome from our direct contribution, that's where you'll find the highest level of retention, in my opinion.
And would you say, is there enough room for advancement and sufficient incentive to stay?
I think we have some work to do for sure. And I think that it actually starts with us defining what that needs to look like, rather than waiting for employers to figure out what that overall package needs to be to retain us. I think, taking a stand and really thinking through, I really agree with the conversation about being a working mom, for example. I've lived that myself, and, coming up with something for ourselves and saying, you know what, this is how we can make it work. we know our businesses, we know what our companies need, or our employers, we know what the industry needs. And it's really being able to define for ourselves what that needs to look like, and then going for it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So there is a question here from the audience. How do we encourage the men in our industry to accept the onus of recognizing what women are capable of? Furthermore, how do we end the coveting of knowledge or education that is often held onto by men in security?
The first one, I did read over that comment in the chat. So this was a question about how do we encourage the men in our industry to accept the onus of recognizing what women are capable of? I think one of the best ways is to be a strong woman leader yourself and show through your own actions that it's something that can be done. Men are coming to the table, to the diversity table slowly, but they are coming. And I think if you can convince at least one person that you are as capable and as courageous and as powerful as anybody around the management team table, then you are doing your job and showing what having a diverse team would look like. I know it sounds super simplistic, but I'm a firm believer in doing by showing.
I'll add on to that. Something that we've done at Convergint as part of Convergint Women Connect is we've set up 4 pillars that really set the stage for what we do. And one of them is education. So we bring educational opportunities and ideas for advancement to our colleagues, not to our female colleagues, to all of our colleagues. And we encourage the female colleagues along with the male colleagues, not only to encourage others to step up to the plate and look at what those kinds of educational opportunities are, but it also allows them to understand what's important to our female colleagues. This past year and a half or so, we created a series that talks to a day in the life of our female colleagues. So we've had a panel discussion every quarter with women in our industry, in our company, that are in different types of roles. So we've done sales, program management, IT, and we bring women to the table and just ask, what were your challenges? How did you overcome the educational aspects? How did you overcome, having a seat at the table or getting ahead and things like that? And what's your success been? So hearing it from other female colleagues really has also made a big impact, and it opens the doors. If I know that this is a role that we have and that anyone can participate in that role, can be in that role, more women are coming up and saying, hey, raising their hand, I want to be a program manager. What do I need to do? What kind of education do I need? And how do I get that job?
Thank you, Jenn.
I think a lot of what we're all talking about is demanding, and when we don't receive it, asking for trust from our colleagues, from our employers, from our managers, and then also if we have direct reports. And I think this goes back to the conversation around balancing work and life, whatever that looks like, whether you're a working mom, whether you have 5 kids, whether you're a single woman, whether you're a male, whatever you're doing. I think when it comes down to it, we're hired to do certain roles and we're hired with responsibilities. And what we need most of all from people is trust that we're going to do those roles and we're going to execute on our responsibilities for that we were hired for. And when we aren't, we're looking to have those candid conversations so that we can either level up or scale down what we're doing. But when it comes down to it, I think one of the most impactful leaders I've ever had, I had a challenging role, and he said, you know how to manage your time the best. You know how to manage your responsibilities. I hired you because I believe that you can do this role in the way that it needs to be done. So you work on the timeline that you work at, be at the meetings you need to be at, finish your responsibilities when you say you'll finish them and when they're needed. But the rest of it is up to you. I have your back. If you need me, I'll support you. If you mess up, I'll work with you to redirect, but I trust you. And I think that's a really important portion of being specifically a woman in this industry, where we have things outside of just our roles that are very demanding, whether you're a a mom, whether you're a nanny, whether you're an aunt, whether you just like to volunteer, whether you have, four-legged pet animal children or not. I think having people who really just trust that you'll be able to manage your time and execute what you're supposed to be executing on is the most empowering thing that anyone can do for a female in this industry.
Well, and Erin, I think that to follow up, it goes with doing your job well, right? If you want to have men understand how you can do a job well, do it well. I mean, it's and like you said, ask for help if you need it. But I think showing up is 95% of the game, right? Tie your shoes tight and get ready. And I think that that's where successful anybody, whether they're women or men, the successful people are the ones who show up and who are consistent and who have an understanding of what it means to do a good job at something.
Yeah. And to take it a step further, I think that the more we can put gratitude at the center of our perspectives, to be able to appreciate the opportunities that we have, the privilege that we have to do these roles, and then figure out how we can lend some of that to other individuals is really powerful. I mean, not everyone has an opportunity to have a fulfilling career like we've all been given. So how can we get involved? How can we participate in ways that help other people realize these opportunities and really have that gratitude so that we are performing to the best of our ability? Because there's a whole host of people, especially in the last few years, who have been tragically kind of impacted by the state of the world. So if we have these moments where we can make an impact both in our own performance and in the advancement of other people, let's be really grateful for those opportunities and make the most of them.
Right. Thank you all so much for your time today.